There are these questions that just kind of hum in the background for me, and I bet for a lot of people listening
Mhm.
too. Like really basic stuff. Where did we actually come from? What's the real story?
Right.
And this whole idea of God that so many people talk about or search for, who or maybe what is that really? It feels like they're always there, these questions, in the quiet moments.
They really are. It's quite something how they stick with us, isn't it? No
Oh,
matter where you are in life or what you believe right now. They feel, well, fundamentally human.
totally. So, okay, for this deep dive, we've got some really interesting material we've been looking through. It tackles these massive questions, but from different places.
Mhm.
Some of it looks at, the scientific angle on origins, evolution, and all that. But then there's also this rich sort of spiritual and theological side. We want to see how they talk to each other, maybe.
Exactly. And, at first glance, they might seem like polar opposites, science and spirit. But our mission today really is to help navigate that. We want to pull out the key ideas, the most compelling bits from these sources,
Yeah.
and see if we can spot some connections, maybe some surprising ones that offer a bit more clarity, or perhaps just a fresh perspective without, drowning everyone in jargon, just getting to the heart of it.
Okay, let's do it. So, this origin question first. What jumped out at me right away from the sources was this real contrast. On
Mhm.
one side, you've got this ancient, powerful idea of divine creation, shaped by divine hands, that image from Genesis,
Hmm.
dust, and then life breathed in. It's quite a picture.
It really is very potent. And then standing right opposite that is the other view. Humans as a result of, well, billions of years of evolution. A
Yeah.
cosmic accident refined by time, as one source put it.
Right, the long evolutionary chain.
Wow.
Modern science, they feel like completely different narratives about who we are.
They absolutely do. It often
Yeah.
feels like you have to pick a side, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But then one of the sources brings in Augustine, the famous early Christian thinker. He clearly struggled with this stuff himself.
Oh, yeah, massively.
And there's that quote from his Confessions. It really grabbed me. You have made us for yourself, O Lord, and our hearts are restless until they rest in you.
Mm, powerful.
It kind of suggests that maybe, separate from how we physically got here, there's this built-in longing, like a restlessness that's just part of being human. Science explains the how, maybe, but this speaks to the why we feel this need for something more.
That's a great way to put it. And it connects to that tendency we see, right?
Mhm.
People reaching for something transcendent, even if they're skeptical.
Like what?
Well, the sources mention things like, praying when you're really in trouble,
Hmm.
or just that feeling of pure awe when you see an amazing sunset or stand by the ocean, those moments.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It feels bigger than just molecules. And that leads to this other idea in the readings about something inside us that connects us to the divine.
Like a spark.
Yeah, a spark of eternity that no theory can extinguish. That phrase. And the thought that the soul recognizes its creator. Wow. That suggests maybe, beyond the biology, there's this deeper knowing.
It really makes you wonder if these two things, our scientific origins and this spiritual sense of connection, maybe they're not fighting each other after all.
Like they're operating on different levels.
Maybe addressing different parts of what it means to be human.
Okay, so if we accept there's this searching quality in us, it leads right to the next question. Who is this God people are searching for? And again, the sources show different ideas floating around.
Right. You have this sort of distant idea, the cosmic watchmaker, God who wound things up and then stepped back, or just God is some vague force.
Why did those ideas pop up, do you think? Did the sources hint at that?
Well, sometimes, maybe when science makes big leaps, people try to fit God in neatly,
Yeah.
make it logical, less messy, less involved, perhaps.
Okay.
But then the sources really pivot hard towards a much more personal God, intimate even.
Yeah, like the father and the prodigal son story. That image is just incredible. The running, the embrace, no questions asked.
Unconditional,
Even.
exactly. Or God as a potter, carefully fixing the cracked bits. Or the shepherd who leaves the whole flock to find the one lost sheep. That's not distant, that's deeply invested.
Really hands-on.
Yeah. And what's interesting is how this presence is described. Not always like thunder and lightning,
Yeah.
more like whispers in the silences we've forgotten how to hear.
Uh,
It's subtle. You need to be still to catch it. Like that line, be still and know that I am God. It implies needing quiet, needing to pay attention internally.
and then you have those stories. The guy in Kolkata finding God only when he hit absolute rock bottom. That really sticks.
It does. And the flip side of that, the observation that people who consciously, push away anything sacred,
Mm,
they often end up feeling this deep emptiness.
like a consequence.
Less like a punishment, maybe,
Yeah.
and more just the natural result of trying to live without roots, without that deeper connection that
Right.
seems to nourish us somehow.
It makes me think of Ecclesiastes. Solomon saying everything is meaningless, a chasing after the wind. If you only chase the material stuff, maybe that's where you end up.
That's exactly the connection the sources seem to make. It raises that big question. What actually gives life weight, meaning substance, if it's not just
Like,
stuff?
okay, if that connection fades or we forget it, the sources paint this picture of a world adrift. It sounds pretty bleak, actually.
It can be. They describe, modern life. Cities pulse with loneliness masked by screens. Oof. Families cracking under the strain.
And that phrase about trading altars for algorithms, Sabbath for hustle, communion for comparison, that feels very now.
Yep.
Very 2024.
Doesn't it? And you see the ripple effects. Like
Yeah.
a generation getting its values from influencers, not wisdom. Schools teaching skills maybe, but not meaning.
Mhm.
People building up walls of cynicism.
It feels like losing a compass almost.
Yeah. And it hits families too, right? The articles mentioned absent parents, rebellious children, fragmented homes, kids growing up without that spiritual anchor or guidance.
It's heavy stuff. And that question one source posed, what can we expect from the future if the present is so empty of faith? It really stops you for a second, doesn't it? Like, what kind of foundation is that?
It's a critical question, yeah. What are the values shaping us, shaping the next generation? It
Yeah.
matters.
But okay, thankfully, it's not all presented as disaster. The sources are clear. There's still hope, this idea that God's presence still transforms, that God hasn't just, thrown in the towel on humanity.
Right. And the examples they give are powerful because they feel real.
Yeah.
Tangible.
Like Mother Teresa.
Yeah, Mother Teresa is seeing Christ in the poorest of the poor. That's faith in action, isn't it? Or the ex-gang leader who now leads prayer groups. Siblings who are totally estranged, finding a way back to each other.
Wow.
Even that personal story, the friend facing a cancer diagnosis and finding God in that fear. These aren't just nice ideas. Their lives changed.
Yeah, it's like something breaks through the static. And the way it's described, bringing peace where there was war, reconciliation where there was hurt, purpose where there was confusion. That's a profound transformation.
Absolutely. And those scriptural quotes woven in really underline it. The peace I leave with you, not as the world gives. That hints at something deeper than just, absence of conflict.
Or the promise of plans to prosper you and not to harm you, even when things look bad. And that core idea, like God is love, it feels like an anchor.
It does. And maybe that connects back to Augustine's restless heart.
Yeah.
Perhaps this is what that restlessness is searching for. These moments of peace, reconciliation, love, purpose. That's the rest, maybe.
Interesting connection. So it all seems to loop back to this choice, or maybe this ongoing question we all face. It's not just the academic, where did we come from?
No.
But the really personal, forward-looking one. Where are we going? What's the point? What's our destination?
Exactly. Science is amazing for the how of our past, the mechanisms, but the where to next, the ultimate purpose,
Yeah.
that seems to be territory science doesn't claim as much. That's where these other ways of knowing often step in.
And C.S. Lewis nailed it, didn't he? That quote, if we find ourselves with a desire that nothing in this world can satisfy, the most probable explanation is that we were made for another world. It captures that deep longing so well.
It really does. And this idea of walking with God is presented less like following rules and more like a journey home. To a place where things are finally set right, where justice kisses mercy, broken things are mended. That vision of God wiping away every tear, it's about ultimate restoration and hope.
But they also admit it's not like the easy path.
Oh, definitely not. It involves bending knees, opening hands, surrendering control. That's tough. Letting go.
Yeah. But the claim is it's the only road that leads home. And ultimately, like one source said, maybe knowing exactly where we came from isn't as crucial as knowing where we're heading, and that maybe only God can really light up that path with truth and love.
Right. It brings it right back to that personal search for direction, for meaning, back to those fundamental questions we started with.
So wrapping this up, what a journey through these ideas. We've sort of seen these two big narratives about our origins, science, faith. We looked at different ways of thinking about God, distant force versus involved, personal presence. We touched on the fallout, the sort of adrift feeling when that connection phrase, but also, importantly, the persistence of hope, the reality of transformation.
Yeah, the stories have changed.
And it all kind of funnels down to that ultimate question for each of us, not just origins, but destiny, where we pointed.
And maybe thinking about all these different angles, the science, the spirit, the searching, the hope. The real takeaway question for you listening is, how does this actually, impact how you choose to live? Like
Sure.
today, tomorrow.
Yeah, that's definitely something to sit with. What does it mean for my life right now? Lots to think about. Thanks so much for digging into this with us.